Hello there. At 8 a.m. on October 26, 2014, a man called the Hongzhong District Police Station in Qinghai Province to report that his wife had been missing for 3 days and had not returned home. He had searched everywhere but couldn't contact her, and her phone was switched off. Shortly after, the police went to the man's house and began recording his statement for the investigation file. His name was Wang Liang, and his missing wife's name was Dai Mei, aged 35. Liang recounted that on the morning of October 23, 2014, he opened the gate and rode his motorcycle to work. He worked as an excavator operator at a construction site about 3 to 8 kilometers away from home. Because the area was being filled with water, Liang had to focus intensely on his work. However, he felt unusually worried and anxious that day. Around 11:20 a.m., during the lunch break, Liang tried calling home, but Dai Mei's phone was switched off, which made him even more worried. He tried to reassure himself that her phone battery might have died. Around 5 p.m., when he finished work, he hurried home. Upon entering, he saw his eldest son and youngest daughter playing in the yard. Since the gate was unlocked, the children had entered the yard, but since there was no key to open the door, they waited outside for their father. Upon entering the house, Liang noticed that nothing had changed since he left for work in the morning. Dai Mei's laundry basin, which she usually brought out to wash and dry, remained untouched in the usual spot in front of the yard. Even her favorite pink cardigan, which she had set aside to hand wash, was still in the basin. Normally, after breakfast, Dai Mei's first task was to wash clothes and hang them out to dry, as the autumn weather meant it took longer for clothes to dry. The presence of the laundry basin indicated that Dai Mei had been preoccupied with something and had rushed out of the house very early, perhaps immediately after Liang left for work. When Liang asked the neighbors if they knew where his wife had gone, an elderly woman said she had seen Dai Mei hastily leaving the house at around 7 a.m. Upon hearing this, Liang checked the house again and found Dai Mei's ID card and her crossbody bag still at home, but her phone and house keys were missing. He guessed that Dai Mei hadn't gone far because if she had, she would have taken her identification and wallet. Liang immediately called Dai Mei's parents to ask if there was any urgent matter that would prompt her to visit them, but they said they didn't know. Similarly, when he asked Dai Mei's acquaintances, they gave the same response. Although Liang believed his wife hadn't gone far, she didn't return home that night, which made him very worried. He kept calling her phone, but there was no answer. Both families and friends of the couple searched for Dai Mei for 3 days, but found no trace of her. After thinking for a few days, Liang suddenly had a chilling thought that his wife might have been deceived and sold to human traffickers by someone she knew. The next morning, he decided to call the police to report his wife's disappearance. All of this information was obtained by the police when they investigated the victim's house. At this point, the investigation became very difficult because there was no crime scene, no victim, no unfamiliar fingerprints, no bloodstains. In short, there were no leads. Looking at Wang Liang's house, it's quite luxurious, with many glass doors in the front to let in light, and the walls are high and sturdy with a solid iron gate. The security in this area is very good, and life is peaceful to the extent that there hasn't been a theft or any serious incident all year round. In comparison to other households in the village, Dai Mei and Wang Liang live a relatively affluent lifestyle. Wang Liang works at a construction site and is skilled in his trade, earning a decent income. Dai Mei used to work outside the home for a while, but her income was too low, so she quit to take care of household chores and the family. The couple has a 12-year-old son and a 6-year-old daughter. In the eyes of the villagers, this is a happy family with well-behaved children and stable finances. However, Dai Mei's sudden disappearance completely changes everything. After recording all the necessary information and conducting a preliminary check of the house, the police requested the telecommunications company to check Dai Mei's recent call logs. Dai Mei's disappearance was temporarily classified as a missing person case. When there were no clear leads to investigate, 3 days later, on October 30th, Liang tried calling his wife's phone again, and it rang this time. He was overjoyed and anxious, but strangely, a man answered the phone, claiming to live in Huihabu, Inner Mongolia. He said he had found the phone last week while on a business trip to Qinghai. The man identified himself as Li Quen and had returned to Inner Mongolia. If Liang wanted to retrieve the phone, he should come there. That night, Liang had hundreds of questions about this stranger. Was what he said true? Did he just happen to find Dai Mei's phone, or was he involved in her disappearance? Did Dai Mei go with him willingly, or was she abducted to Inner Mongolia? Could the man's invitation be a trap? Because of his concern for his wife, Liang pushed aside thoughts and worries about his own safety. The next day, he bought the earliest train ticket to Inner Mongolia to search for his wife's whereabouts. When he boarded the train, Liang remembered to call the police to report the latest information he had obtained when calling his wife's phone, and also inform them of his trip to Inner Mongolia to meet the stranger. The police handling the case immediately contacted the local police in Huihapu, Inner Mongolia, to request assistance for Wang Liang. After more than 30 hours on the train, Liang finally arrived in Inner Mongolia. With the help of the local police, he quickly found the man named Li Quen. When Li Quen handed the phone to Liang, he immediately recognized it as Daimei's phone. After verifying that the mobile phone was indeed found by Li Quen in a field in Gangsao village, Li Quen and his colleagues were preparing to leave Qinghai province after their business trip to return to Inner Mongolia. Li Quen found the phone on October 25th, 2 days after Daimei went missing. At that time, the rice fields were ripe and golden, so they stopped the car to take photos. While looking down at the ground, Li Quen discovered the phone on the edge of the field, but it was dead, so he brought it back to Inner Mongolia. After verifying this information from Li Quen's colleagues who traveled with him, the police temporarily ruled out suspicions about Li Quen. However, Liang couldn't understand why his wife's mobile phone was lost in a field in a distant village, Gangsao, several kilometers away from their village, Shizhonghong. How could Daimei have walked to Gangsao's field while she was outside? The police posed two hypotheses. Daimei might have gone to Gangsao's field and dropped her phone before disappearing, or someone took her phone and threw it in Gangsao's area. Regardless of the scenario, it foreboded ill for Daimei. The police expanded their search to the Gangsao village area and its surroundings, focusing on the location where Li Quen found the phone and circled a search radius of 4 kilometers. Unfortunately, even after 3 days, they found no useful leads. While Liang was still searching for his wife's whereabouts, other strange incidents occurred in Shizhonghong village. 2 women who were very close to Daimei also mysteriously disappeared. Based on the telecommunications report, the police isolated individuals who frequently contacted the victim and interviewed each one separately, but no valuable leads emerged. In less than 10 days, 3 women suddenly vanished from a small mountain village with a population of just over 500. Rumors spread throughout the village, causing great anxiety among the residents. These 3 missing women were very close to each other and were often the subject of discussion in the village. The villagers noted that these women dressed more elegantly than the norm in rural areas and often gathered together. Although there were many rumors circulating about the disappearance of these 3 women, when questioned, Liang completely denied and trusted his wife. They had been married for 13 years and had 2 children. To Liang, Daimei was a gentlewoman who managed household chores well and especially cared for him and their children. There had never been any major conflicts between them. According to neighbors, Liang's family used to live harmoniously, but since Daimei stopped working and frequently dressed up, Liang requested her to stay home and take care of the children's education. In August 2014, just about 2 months before Daimei disappeared, she quit her job and returned to work as a homemaker in the family. Although she no longer worked, she often went out, sometimes spending the whole day outside while Liang worked all day and their children were in school. Interestingly, after Daimei disappeared, 2 women who were close to her also disappeared shortly thereafter, causing a stir in the area. However, the police found no leads for this missing persons case. 6 months later, as villagers gradually forgot about Daimei's disappearance and the other 2 women, on April 10, 2015, a villager in Gangsao village discovered a horrifying incident. According to the man named Wang, he rarely visited that area, only a few times a year. That day, while watering his pine forest, he smelled a strong, unpleasant odor. Initially, he thought it might be a dead animal, so he grabbed a shovel and followed the stench with the intention of burying it. However, just a few seconds later, Mr. Wang hastily threw away the shovel and ran away in panic. What Mr. Wang saw was a severely decomposed female body lying under a tree in a supine position. Her legs and head were tilted to one side, and her left arm seemed to be fractured, causing it to twist in a bizarre manner. The horrifying sight made him collapse, trembling on the ground, and after regaining his composure, he finally pulled out his phone to call the police. Upon receiving the report, the district police of Hongzhong immediately arrived at the crime scene to investigate. The forensic doctor stated that the body was in an advanced stage of the decomposition, with hair and scalp nearly completely peeled off, and the face severely disfigured beyond recognition. The left forearm of the body was broken, with an open fracture causing deformity, indicating a strong, forceful impact. The skin in many areas of the body was decayed to the extent that bones were exposed. After the forensic examination, the forensic doctor concluded that the victim was a woman aged between 32 and 37, approximately 1.57 meters tall, with long hair. The cause of death was mechanical asphyxia, occurring approximately 6 months prior. The body was dressed in a red coat, black pants, and black short boots, with a lot of dirt stuck behind the heels of the boots. The police surmised that the victim, after being murdered, was dragged by the perpetrator, causing her body to be positioned supine. After preliminary identification based on the physique and clothing, the police determined that the victim closely resembled Dai Mei. DNA results confirmed that the deceased was indeed Feng Dai Mei, 35 years old, who was reported missing 6 months earlier. In the private parts of the body there was a strange DNA sample of a man, which when compared did not match anyone in the international database. In addition to the footprints and circular imprints left by Mr. Huang at the crime scene, there was another distinct men's shoe print. These were clues that might be related to the victim, as they were very close to the body, and the area was rarely frequented. The forensic doctor collected a DNA sample from Dai Mei's private parts, which was semen from a man, but when tested, it did not match Wang Liang. Due to the long time elapsed, it could not be determined whether the victim was raped or had consensual relations. Although the investigation had no clear direction, Dai Mei's husband suddenly provided a significant lead to the special task force. Wang Liang remembered that a man named Wei Cheng had called his wife many times before she disappeared. After Dai Mei went missing, Liang called this Wei Cheng to ask if he had seen his wife, but the man claimed he didn't know who Liang's wife was. When Liang asked Cheng where he was, he didn't answer and hung up the call. When Wang Liang called back, the man turned off his phone. Although Liang didn't know the extent of his wife's relationship with this man, it made him suspicious, especially after discovering Dai Mei's body. The police quickly located a man named Wei Cheng, who was a former colleague of Dai Mei. Cheng admitted that on the morning Dai Mei disappeared, he called her to invite her out, and she agreed, but he didn't meet her at the appointed time. That morning he went to the gate of Shihongzhong village, but when he called Dai Mei's mobile phone again, it was turned off. How to determine if Cheng's words were true? Cheng immediately provided alibi evidence afterward to prove that he did not meet Dai Mei. When he couldn't contact Dai Mei, he immediately called Chi Hua, another former colleague, and they went to the Xining Zoo, several dozen kilometers away, and spent the whole day together. Chi Hua, a 33-year-old married woman, was originally Dai Mei's niece-in-law. Despite being family, Chi Hua and Dai Mei were very close due to their similar ages. However, Chi Hua also disappeared shortly after Dai Mei went missing, adding another layer of mystery to the case. So who could corroborate Wei Cheng's testimony? The police continued their search for Chi Hua, and after about half a month and various comparison methods, they finally located her living in Anmu-do, nearly 800 kilometers away from Shihongzhong village. Initially, the police thought finding Chi Hua would provide a new breakthrough in the case. However, upon investigation, they learned that Chi Hua had left home due to marital discord, unrelated to Dai Mei's murder. Furthermore, Chi Hua confirmed what Wei Cheng had previously said was true. With all leads cut off, the case gradually reached a dead end. At this point, Dai Mei's parents reported to the police their suspicion that Wang Liang had argued with Dai Mei, and in a fit of rage, he killed her and disposed of the body. On the surface, he pretended to be worried, traveling alone to Inner Mongolia to search for Dai Mei to avoid suspicion of being the murderer. Although Dai Mei's family had no concrete evidence for their suspicions, the police learned about the rumors surrounding the victim's life from the villagers. Moreover, Liang's concealment of Dai Mei's grievances indicated a need for further scrutiny. It was plausible that Wang Liang discovered his wife's unusually close relationship with another man and in a fit of rage, led to her demise. The police investigated covertly but found nothing suspicious about Liang. On the other hand, Liang's colleagues at the construction site could testify that Liang had been working there all day on the day of the incident. The hypothesis that Wang Liang hired someone to kill his wife was also ruled out due to no financial irregularities. Liang's phone records during that time also revealed nothing suspicious. From various investigative angles, the police essentially ruled out Wang Liang as a suspect. On a late April day in 2015, after reinvestigating the police telecommunications report, several more numbers in Dai Mei's phone book were identified. One of them was Wang Hongnan, a 30-year-old divorced man and a painter at the construction site, who was also a former colleague of Dai Mei before her disappearance. As the police investigated this man, Liang provided another crucial piece of information. Just before the Lunar New Year in 2015, immediately after his wife disappeared, Wang Hongnan unexpectedly called Liang and told him to come and collect Dai Mei's salary from her previous job, which was currently being paid by the contractor after several months of delay. At that time, Liang didn't know who Nan was because previously he had asked his wife who she was working with, and Daimei replied that she was working with a group of women. Nan and Liang were completely unfamiliar with each other, so why was he so eager and kind? Investigators found Wang Hongnan, but in their conversation with him they didn't detect anything unusual. However, during the subsequent investigation, the police discovered that the relationship between him and Daimei was not as simple as he claimed. Nan said he and Daimei were not very close, just colleagues. But upon deeper investigation, the police found that the night before Daimei disappeared, they exchanged text messages. Previously, the police hadn't paid much attention to the text messages between the two because the content wasn't particularly noteworthy or suspicious. It was merely Daimei asking Wang Hong to buy her favorite buns and soft drinks. In the interrogation 6 months prior to the police's request for cooperation in the investigation, Wang Hongnan claimed that although he received the messages, he didn't meet Daimei on the morning of October 23rd because he had an urgent task and couldn't make the purchase. Though Wang Hongnan lacked external evidence, the police also had nothing to incriminate him. Asking a former colleague or acquaintance to buy food and drinks was normal if they were nearby. However, the unusual aspect of this incident was that Wang Hongnan's house was in Haizi town, while Daimei lived in Shihongjiang village. Though both places were in the same district, they were 25 kilometers apart. If their relationship was merely that of former colleagues without much closeness, why would Daimei ask Wang Hongnan to buy her breakfast early in the morning, and why would he agree, considering the long distance? Faced with this question, Nan hesitantly explained that he often bought breakfast from a very good bun shop. Once, while having breakfast at the construction site, he met Daimei and gave her one. Daimei liked the buns there, so he bought them for her a few times later. Perhaps that day, Daimei wanted buns from that shop again but didn't know where it was, so she asked him to buy them, and he kindly agreed. The police went to the restaurant where Wang Hongnan often bought buns to investigate and discovered that the plastic bags used there matched the plastic bag found at the crime scene. Additionally, they sold the type of soft drink Daimei liked, similar to the open bottle found near the body. These food and drink items perfectly matched Daimei's request in the text message from the previous evening. It was clear that Wang Hongnan lied about not meeting Daimei, and the shoe prints left at the crime scene matched the size of shoes Wang Hongnan was wearing. This further convinced the police that they were on the right track with this investigation. Although the investigation gradually revealed many suspicious points and lies in Wang Hongnan's testimony, relying solely on these deductions couldn't convict him of murder. Therefore, the police decided to secretly collect Wang Hongnan's DNA. 2 investigators pretended to invite him to dinner to prepare DNA samples from the chopsticks and food items he used during the meal. During the dinner, the police observed Nan's demeanor and noted that he seemed anxious, even trembling with the chopsticks, but still tried to appear calm. Subsequently, Wang Hongnan's DNA sample was sent to the laboratory for analysis. The results showed that Wang Hongnan's DNA matched perfectly with the DNA collected from Daimei's private parts. Finally, Wang Hongnan was immediately arrested by the police. He quickly confessed the entire process of Daimei's murder to the police. Wang Hongnan recounted that he and Daimei started to get to know each other over a year ago, initially through online chatting. As they frequently conversed via text messages, their feelings gradually developed. To spend more time together, Wang Hongnan introduced Daimei to a job at the construction site. From then on, they worked together in the same group, allowing them to spend more time caring for each other. Daimei was very enthusiastic and took care of Nan, even patching up and washing his protective clothing if it got torn and dirty. Nan knew Daimei was previously married, but she had divorced, and both of them felt lonely and developed special feelings for each other. Daimei had completed high school, while Wang Hongnan had only finished junior high school, so sometimes Daimei would use words in her messages that Nan couldn't understand. Each time Nan asked, Daimei would patiently explain, making him feel that Daimei was both gentle and enthusiastic, and he felt a bit of admiration and understanding for her. There were a total of 16 bun shops along the way from Wang Hongnan's house to Daimei's, but Wang Hongnan didn't buy from any of them. Instead, he rode his motorbike quite a long way in the opposite direction to buy buns for Daimei. This was because they had once had breakfast together at that bun shop, and Daimei praised the buns there as delicious. Nan remembered this well and went there every early morning to buy buns to please her. On the morning of October the 23rd, 2014, they met in the pine forest near her house as usual, but they had only been together for about 20 minutes when Daimei received a phone call. On the other end of the line was a man who wanted her to come to him immediately, which infuriated Wang Hongnan because Daimei agreed without hesitation and got up to leave. He repeatedly begged Daimei to stay, but she adamantly refused. An argument erupted, during which Dai Mei insulted Wang Hongnan, calling him a man who couldn't even afford groceries before his wife left him. Provoked by this weakness, Wang Hongnan became angry. He remembered getting up early to stand in line and run a long way to buy buns for her. Yet, after running a long distance to meet her, Dai Mei was leaving to find another man, which made him feel jealous and resentful. When Dai Mei targeted his weakness to mock him, Wang Hongnan lunged at her, choking her. In the struggle, Wang Hongnan broke Dai Mei's arm and then strangled her to death. Regaining his composure, he realized he had killed her and hastily threw the body under a more secluded tree in the pine forest before returning home. Several months later, when the contractor paid the overdue salary, Wang Hongnan called Dai Mei's husband to discuss the money, but before he could ask further, Dai Mei's husband was shocked. Wang Liang said he didn't know any male colleagues of Dai Mei, and she only mentioned having female colleagues. Upon hearing this, Wang Hongnan hung up. He had no idea that Dai Mei had kept their relationship secret. In July 2015, Wang Hongnan was sentenced to death for murder. From extramarital affairs to conflicts and murder, this relationship outside the norm led to a bizarre outcome. It's strange because the one with the right to be jealous here was Wang Liang, but he knew nothing about these complex relationships. Meanwhile, the lovers became jealous of each other, and ultimately, it led to murder. Sometimes love seems incomprehensible, like chasing KPIs or something. Sometimes one person is romantically involved with 3 or 4 others. Most people know that relationships outside the norm are wrong, but many still find it exciting to be a third party or engage in clandestine affairs. This psychology may stem from a preference for extreme sports, and since these romantic affairs are already wrong, it's hard to have a proper ending. In fact, many couples have left their spouses for a third party, but most couldn't last because marriage is the legally protected main relationship. How do you feel about today's case? Leave a comment so we can discuss, and if you liked it, don't hesitate to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to support us. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.